This is a wet felting soap tutorial by Dirty Dandelion Soap. First, gather your materials. 2 pots of water, 1 cold, 1 hot, a soap, wool, a nylon, optional bubble wrap, and a towel. You're going to use somewhere between 8 and 12 grams of wool, but you can just eyeball it. Then make sure that the corners of your soap are nice and round, otherwise it will poke through the wool at the end. You'll see that your wool has kind of a grain to it. And as you build up the layers, spreading it out so that it's nice and even, you want those grains to go in opposite directions so that when you start to wet felt it, the fibers will entangle really nicely into a cohesive textile. Next, you're going to wisp out the edges, and the size of your little wool rectangle should extend past the edges of your soap about 1.5 to 2 inches. You want those edges to be nice and wispy so that once you start to fold up your little soap burrito, the edges won't end up a hard line. So here I am also kind of wisping out the edges so that everything can felt well. Next, you're going to grab your nylon and sock puppet that soap into the nylon. Wrap the tail flat around the edge to kind of hold it all together, and then grab your water. Next, you're going to dunk your soap and wool bundle of joy into the hot water and start to squeeze. You will keep squeezing until soap suds emerge. It's at that point that the soap will start to slip the fibers into place and you can begin gently patting and rubbing. Gentle at first, more vigorous as the fibers become more entangled. As you are dunking and squeezing your soap bundle of joy, you can alternate between the hot and cold water to encourage the fibers to shrink around the soap. After about 3 to 5 minutes, when you can feel that the wool has begun to felt together, and before it starts to poke through the nylon, you take it out of the sock. At this point, you will continue to agitate those fibers together, letting them slip into place by way of rubbing and scrubbing and dunking and squeezing back and forth between the hot and the cold water until you are fully satisfied that your wool has felted together well. The question now is, how do you know if it has felted together well enough? Well, when you rub your felt, you should be able to feel that there are no wrinkles, that it is adhered nicely to the soap, it is nice and tight, and when you pinch the edges, you shouldn't see many hairs come up. The good news about felted soap is that as you continue to use it in the shower, it will continue to felt. So if you are a little bit impatient, feel free to stop the wet felting process here. If you want to keep going and really fully felt that wool over your soap, keep rubbing it with your hands or grab some bubble wrap to get a really nicely tight woven felt and rub that soap with a lot of suds against the bubble wrap for a while. This process in total tends to take me between 15 and 30 minutes per soap, depending on how focused I am. But you really don't want to rush the process. It can feel quite meditative. And when you're done, turn it into something beautiful.